So welcome back. So you just got done spending your life savings, your children's and grandchildren's inheritance on sheet metal for your project car. So the last thing you want to do is get that wrong, right? Because you can tell here behind me, there's not much left. It's 1968 Firebird convertible. I've unbolted just about 90% of everything that could be unbolted. A little different this time. We'll leave in the rear axle in. I'll show you why here about midway through. This car is getting a little sideways on me, but we're going to get it fixed up. But what you also don't see is a frame table, a body jig, a big chunk of steel, or anything to build off of. So that means this car is going to be 100% twisted and garbage when it's done, right? No, I'm going to tell you different. This is the 5th car now that I've built using the same technique. Now you got to follow along. You got to pay attention to the details, but I assure you, you can still get fantastic results. The car with an 1/8 inch tolerance, everything lines up nice and looks good when done, without a frame table, a body jig, or a piece of steel to build off of. Not saying it's a walk in the park, I'm just saying it can be done. So check out the method, understand the science and the logic, and you'll agree with me by the end of this, I hope. At least that's my goal. So let's just take a quick look here. If you've been following along, you know I've got this thing, a lot of park spot here. Some are over here, some are over here, some are over there, some are sitting inside the car, a bunch of sheet metal. Now, I want to get all this installed well. Now you can see I've got the car on jack stands. So there's a little bit of science behind that. Normally I take the rear axle out of the car, makes it a little easier to work on, but this car has such advanced rust or weight savings, I can't put my jack stands where I normally put them at. Being that I like to replace the rocker panels first. That is the foundation, that is the base, that's what everything else will be measured off of. So I need to get those in there first. But in order to do that, I need to get the car set up on a perfect level with the horizon, not my shop floor. Now my garage floor is pretty close, actually pretty nice and even for the most part, super happy with it, but it is not a perfectly level surface, so I can't just count on that. So I need to use what I call a virtual floor. Let me explain that to you here. We're gonna use this here part of the car as our little dry erase board. So let's dig into this. Now think of it this way. This car body, I want it nice and level to the horizon. So I'm going to create my own virtual frame table or a chunk of steel that I'm building off of. So using your imagination, let's just say right now, this is the car body. You've got your X and your Y axis like side to side tip and front to back, but we're going to get this thing perfectly level front to rear and side to side. And how we're going to measure that though is we're going to take, I got a 7-foot level and we're going to measure across from rocker to rocker. But before we do that, I need you to understand the why and the what, and then it all might make sense. But let's just say right now, I pulled my car into the garage. The car has got some really big tires on the back, little tires in the front, so it's got a hell of a lean to the front. Well, that's clear that it's not level to the horizon. So what we're gonna do is then lift the front of the car up. So I've got jack stands front and rear. Then I'm gonna get that thing perfectly level front to rear. Cool. And then I'm also gonna do the same thing side to side. Now I can't see this here on the plane dimension, but so we've got the car level to the horizon, not necessarily level to the garage floor, but level to the horizon. That's why the bubble levels are important. So now this is my car body base. But let's say my garage floor is like this. Well, that's clearly 100% awful. It's just not going to work. My car is going to be tilting forward. Well, not necessarily. We've got our jack stands underneath here, and that's supporting it. Now my car is level to the horizon. Well, that's great, John, but if I want to measure from here to the floor, this is 1 foot, and this is probably 18 inches, whatever it might be. So 12 inch, 18 inch. Well, that's fine. So what we can do though, we're going to drop our measurements whenever building the car, we continually check it. Well, we just got to use our bubble level, sit it on the floor, and we literally just shim up the side of the bubble level to where it's level. And now my measurements are 4 inch and 4 inch. If I've got the car truly level to the horizon and my bubble level to the horizon. And now I've always got now a virtual floor. That's what this line is going to be here. And I can take I have a 7-foot level. I can go from rocker panel to rocker panel underneath the car and bring it up and say, check this point right here on the quarter panel. I can shoot my tape measure straight down to the floor. That bubble level, once level, then both sides should be within 1/8 of an inch of each other. So if I got the car level front and back, and if I'm using my 7-foot bubble level and making it level, I have a virtual floor to build off of, even though my garage floor may be crappy like this. So I hope that makes sense, but that's how I build these cars without that frame jig or frame table. Now the frame jig does give you some advantages. It gives you points of location and kind of helps keep things staying in place. So I'm not going to discourage you if you have access or have one. You still can get good results. And you will also see, this is where I'm going to get some maybe nays and nays, or that's just not possible, very minimal to no bracing when I do these cars. Now, I need to pay very, very special, close attention to what I'm getting ready to say. I don't do bracing because I find, or what I've experienced, I buy some really crappy cars. I mean, you're going to see here when I climb underneath this car, it's rusted away. There's nothing left of it. So if I start bracing that windshield post here to the body and I start bracing everything all together, you mean to tell me that after 50 some years and all this rust, this car is where it needs to be right now? Odds are pretty good. It's not even close. That is why I don't do a lot of bracing, because I find when I start measuring it, I got to cut the crap back out. And I've just wasted material, time, and just the energy to put that bracing in just to hack it away. So what I like to do is, instead of saying I'm rebuilding a 1968 Firebird, I am building from scratch with aftermarket panels that aren't sometimes even close to factory, to a nice even mirrored spec to each side. So I'm actually essentially constructing a car with aftermarket panels. So to say I need to weld it, make it exactly the same as the factory specs, probably gonna be chasing my tail. But what I do though, is you'll see the doors on the car, I start setting my gaps, because when I go off of what's it look like when it's done, I don't care if your measurements are spot on to that book. They're important, and measurements are vital to get this thing nice, but to say it's back to original spec, I don't even bother. I go off of this left side, mirror the right side, am I within an 1/8 inch of it? And if I meet that criteria, I get fantastic results. So again, you won't see a lot of bracing. You may feel different. Do what you find works for you. But again, if I got a pretty solid car, probably the bracing wouldn't be a bad idea. But this thing here, I'm gonna start showing you underneath here. You're gonna agree that it's probably not even close to being square to begin with. So get you an idea, maybe make this a little more clear as mud kind of stuff. Take the bubble level. I'm gonna pick the same point on the driver's side versus the passenger side here, just inside of that little bump there, inside the door jamb. Now, I've got this car leveled up right now, where our bubble level is right and centered in here like it needs to be. So right now my car is level side to side, and also I got a shorter bubble level I put here in the door jamb. It'll show that I'm level front to rear. So my X and my Y axis, so my rocker panel is gonna be my base foundation. That's why we're gonna replace those first. That's level front to rear, and my body is level side to side. Now, again, we have to assume this car isn't twisted. It's had quarter panels replaced. They're Camaro ones, because clearly this is a Firebird, but you see what's not there? Yeah, it's the wrong quarter panel. So do I trust this 100%? No, I don't. But what I do trust, these are original rocker panels. I trust this body line right here, that crease. So I now can take the same bubble level, put it here on the floor, run it side to side, and verify it's level to the floor. Of course, it's hard to see it here, but I'll get my over here. Let's see, how do we look? No, surprisingly, that looks really level. Now what I can do is drop my tape measure from this body line straight down, move this back, but you see what I mean, straight down to here, and both sides should be within 1/8 of an inch of each other. If that's the case, I know I'm level front to rear, I'm level side to side. At that point, I'm ready to start deconstructing and cutting this car apart. But what you'll also see is this pretty new door. So even if you don't put new doors on it, keep the old doors on the car. Now, this is gonna be part of our measuring tool. We'll inspect the gap prior to. It's not horrible, but it's not fantastic. I don't trust this quarter panel installation, but I do trust the relationship between the rocker panel and the door. I have a nice, clean, even gap from that front corner all the way back to here. So that means my door is parallel to my rocker panel. So this is gonna be how I build this car. I'm gonna build it from this door back. Because even though, let's say this quarter panel is 100% in the factory location, well, this gap isn't that great. Maybe I can manipulate that new quarter panel just to close up this gap a little bit and make my lines a little cleaner. But also keeping in mind 67, 68, we have this body line down the door and the quarter panel, so I'll be highlighting that when I put the new quarter panel on. That's later on down the road. First thing we're gonna do is do our rocker panel. But what I will do on a convertible, we're missing this thing called a roof. That's why it's a convertible. You will see bracing between my door jamb, front edge here to back here. Because once we remove that rocker panel, I am removing enough of the structure of the car. I just don't trust it. But I'm going to support this intersection of my quarter panel down here to my door jamb kick panel area. I got to get that kick panel out of the car still. But we're going to weld a chunk of steel from front to rear. And that way I can remove this rocker panel and not worry about too much stuff moving. Now I'll also measure from a known good point here down here to my seatbelt hole. I measured those earlier and they're within like a 1/4 inch of each other. It's a little bit off, but they're close. But I got the other thing I got right here in my hand, I forgot to bring it up. This guy right here is going to be your buddy. You're going to write down all kinds of notes all over this car. I'm going to drop the tape measure from here to the floor and get my measurement. I'm going to write it right on here, not floor, from here to my bubble level, write my measurement here. So as I cut things apart, I can go back and reference it. We're not going to move the car around a whole lot. And speaking of these jack stands, I have these adjustable ones. It says right on it, not for supporting vehicles. So do what you want with that information. But they're super handy because they're adjustable. You can really fine tune the height of the car. So I do like these. Now this body shell weighs virtually nothing at this point in comparison to an entire car. So I won't be climbing underneath it a whole lot necessarily, but I will be working under the rocker panel. So if you need to or feel better, slide your regular jack stand underneath it as a secondary support, but use this as an adjustment to dial in the body. So now my body is level to the floor. I'm nice and square. I should probably go ahead and put my bracing in, but I haven't yet. But as you notice where my jack stand is located at, I have it up here on the front torque box here. It's a solid chunk of metal, so that's going to work great. Typically on the rear, I put it on the frame rails, but this car has some serious issues. And they would be the fact that I normally put my jack stand on the frame rail, but there isn't a frame rail left. That's the frame rail. My hand is reaching through the frame rail. So unfortunately, I got to put it here. And I don't trust this because it's pretty much rusted away also, as you can see. So this car is not in good shape. It may take the position of the worst car I've ever brought back. So what I've decided to do in this case, rear axle is going to stay in the car to give me a little more stability and strength as I cut this all apart. Because as soon as I separate this from the rocker panel, I just don't trust what's left of this floor and the floor bracing. So this is going to promote some challenges for us, and I think it's going to be fun to put it back together. Now, once I get this rocker panel cut out and replaced, I then move the jack stands to the rocker panels. But that's my first step, is put them in there. And of course, once I move my jack stands to the rocker panels, start all over. Get the car square front to rear, and then side to side. Then we start building it up from there. Just so you can maybe help you out some visual. Some of you guys are visual, or gals are visual learners. Bubble level to the floor. Mine's pretty good, but I keep these around, these wood shims, in case you got to bring this up or down a little bit. You can throw that underneath your level as needed to correct for any elevation situations on your floor. And then now you have a nice level surface, you can start measuring up to the car. So like an example, get some more crap in my hands here, right? What we'll do, maybe, cool. Nope, maybe not. It's hard to do this with one hand. Again, I like this body line right here. Now she's a little corroded away, but we really get the gist of it. There's still a sharp edge right there. So if I were to measure, well, after fighting that for a few moments, you get the idea. Lay this on our bubble level, that's our virtual floor. Bring it up to that body line right at 13 inches. Now, if I do the same thing and jump over to the driver's side, I should be at 13 inches or within an 1/8 inch of that. So let's go check that out. Okay, we'll sneak down here and you'll see we're actually about just shy of 13 inches. But again, resting it right there on our virtual floor, putting it up here, 13 inches. And since we discovered from that point up there is 13 inches, I have to cut bottom part of this quarter panel off. So we're not going to draw our illustrations down there, but that's our body line for the top of the rocker panel. And I'm going to do virtual floor, top of that to here, 13 inches. That's my scratch pad, so check that out. So as I'm moving things around, if something shifts or I put the new rocker panel in, that new rocker panel, I need that line to be 100% or as close as I can be to that original elevation. So when I install a new rocker panel, measure them here, that body line should be right at 13 inches. So you're getting the idea. I'll do the same thing. I'll take a few more measures from here to the floor, and I'll write it on the side of the car. Now, the other thing is this door being on there, like I said, it's a point of reference, but it lines up here with the front of our rocker panel. So I'll have that as a nice point of reference. And then the other thing we'll do is I'll measure from the leading edge of our rocker panel to something up here in the car. That'll have a way of referencing the forward and back location of that rocker panel. Because the other thing I've run into is these rocker panels, the outer skin isn't always welded on in the same place from brand to brand or day to day. So you might find a 1/4 inch discrepancy. If you were to measure from, say, from here on what this part comes with the new full rocker panels to here, you'll find that difference of a 1/4 inch or more sometimes. So I would rather the door line up with the rocker panel and the outer skin line up where I need it to be. And in really bad cases, you're drilling spot welds out of the replacement rocker panel and relocating that outer skin. That's how I learned the inside of the new rocker panels. They're bare steel. They don't do anything on the inside, which is horrible, but that's the nature of the beast. So I hope that all makes sense to you. That's how we're going to take care of this car. I've done 4 other cars that way in just this garage, and it's worked great. There'll be some other things we'll be showing you on the way, like finding the center line, why that becomes important when basically fabricating or assembling your own car at home. Not rebuilding, but fabricating your own new car, because let's be honest, these replacement panels aren't exactly 100% original shapes or dimensions. We're going to make do with what we got, but still get really good results. That's the plan. So next go around, I'll work on putting that bracing inside of here. I think that's self-explanatory. I got to bust that rocker panel out of there, the kick panel, not rocker panel, kick panel out. Then once it's out of the way, we'll do some trimming, kick this rocker panel out, show you how that comes out, put it back in, and show you the ups, downs, the ins, and the outs. So that's the procedure. Get both sides knocked out. Then we work our way from the front of the car back. If you saw in the previous video where all that sheet metal goes, that's exactly where it's going to go. We'll do it just that order, putting it in here. Definitely grab the camera, showing you the process as we do it and how it gets happened here in a little tiny space, proving that it can be done again for the 5th time. I guess that's where we're at. So it's been a lot of fun sharing the stories of these cars, and then that's what we're going to get into. I wanted to show you a separate video of setting up our virtual floor to get things done and make it happen here in the space that we got. But if you do have a frame table or a body jig or a chunk of 3/4 inch plate steel to build off of, go for it. I'm not hating. I just don't have that. And if you're only building one car, it may not be a necessity for you. Save you a few bucks, put into something else, because like I said, I done spent all my inheritance on this car, so it's not cheap. So where can you not cut corners, but can you do without? The answer is yes. And I'm going to show you as we keep building this car how well it's going to come together. And you'll see even how rusty this thing is, it'll still make a very nice car when it's all said and done. So again, thank you for following along. Appreciate you subscribing, share with your friends. Views are up right now in the Vinyl Village Garage. I can't thank you all enough for doing what you're doing and making it happen, because I guess the YouTube gods are in my favor just a little bit. So it's kind of fun watching that grow. I know it's not the important part necessarily for you all, but it's kind of the reward for me, because kind of a new challenge, see if I can make that go. So anyway, I've rambled on enough about that. I will definitely get the camera back out here, start working on pulling that rocker panel, and hope to catch you all then.
They say there comes a time in everybody's life they have to prove their will is strong. Just like this man from Indiana doing show car restorations in his home.